Hello my friend, Jonny Goode here from realhomestudio.com. When I'm working with clients and students, I'll often ask them, how did your home studio journey begin? How did you get into all this mixing and mastering, production and recording? More often than not, the response is that they started out learning on a musical instrument, just like me. Around the age of 13 or 14, I picked up my first guitar and everything just snowballed from there. So if I'm looking with a student into their mixing methodology, my next question will be, how do you incorporate some of that musicality back into your mixing process? And I'm often really surprised to see that this one plugin isn't incorporated into their mixing method because it is such a musical way to work. And for beginners in particular, this one plugin relates incredibly well to things they would be already used to mixing without even really thinking about it. Things like 3-band EQs in a car stereo or in a home stereo system. And if they're guitarists, things like a simple EQ on a guitar amp, they're going to be super used to dialing in to get the tone that they want. Not only that, but this one plugin is emulating a piece of gear which is going to have been used on some of your favorite music, some of my favorite music, so it makes total sense to use an emulation of that piece of gear in your mixes too. So what plugin am I talking about? If you haven't guessed already, I'm talking about a NOIZ style channel strip. The good news is there's a whole bunch of these on the plugin market, some really solid free ones and some excellent paid ones too. So in this video today, we're going to be diving inside the DAW, taking a look at a mixing method with a NOIZ style channel strip and unlocking the power of musical mixing in your home studio. Okay, so just before we dive in and take a look at mixing some vocals with our NOIZ style channel strip, here's 3 plugins that you can take a look at, from free to a couple of paid ones. The free one's on the bottom left here called Chanev, from the wonderful Analog Obsession. If you're not familiar with Analog Obsession, you can get this plugin right now for completely free, but it's kind of like donation, where if you're using his plugins regularly, he invites you to make a monthly donation to his Patreon, which I think is more than fair. This is a cracking plugin. You can see it looks a bit more complex than the other 2 offerings from Sonorous and Kit Plugins, and that's kind of because there's a lot more going on here rather than just saturation and EQ. You've also got a compressor, you've got limiter, you've got tape, you've got a de-esser, so a really complete channel strip, which you can get a lot done in your mix just by dropping this on as a first instance onto your track. The other 2, you've got Burnley 73 from Sonorous, a cracking sounding plugin, as is my personal choice from these 3 from Kit Plugins, the BBN 105. Okay, so here we are with our vocal. I've actually mixed this track already, so what I've done is I've taken all these plugins off and just left our channel strip on. This channel strip is from Kit Plugins. It's the Blackbird N73. This kind of plugin, the channel strip's going to be going on at the start of the mix. You've done your gain staging, you've done your static mix. It's the time to throw on your channel strip, and what we're going to be doing is going to be making musical broad brush stroke decisions. I liken this to if you're an artist with a canvas, you just want to get some color onto that canvas early on when you feel inspired, when you start working. That's what working with this channel strip is all about, making those broad decisions when your ears are fresh at the start of the mix, not thinking too much about all the detail towards the end of the mix, much like you wouldn't with that painting. You're not going to be worrying about all the ins and outs of the leaves on the trees. You want to get the fundamentals, you want to get the broad brushstrokes right and everything into perspective and make a good solid foundation for your mix. I like to think of it as being a musician before being a technician. So let's bring in first off a little bit of saturation just to liven up our vocal. It's going to give it a little bit of compression as well.
Never been so alone in a crowded room. I missed the bus, there's another one coming soon. The mic is open but the doors are closed. I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze. Those shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm getting old. See people humming as they're looking through the rum and coke. But I'm broke, the man spoke, can't he take a Never been so alone in a crowded room. I missed the bus, there's another one
just bringing
soon.
The vocal to life a little bit. Let's dial in a little bit of this high shelf.
The mic is open but the doors are closed. I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze. Those shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm getting old. See people humming as they're looking through the rum and coke. But I'm broke, the
Let's bring our mix in.
Never been so alone in a crowded room. I missed the bus, there's another one coming soon. The mic is open but the doors are closed. I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze. Those shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm getting old. See people humming as they're looking through the rum and coke. But I'm broke, the man spoke, can't he take a Never been so alone in a crowded room. I missed the bus, there's another one coming soon. The mic is open but the doors are closed. I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze. Those shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm getting old. See people humming as they're looking through the rum and coke. But I'm broke, the man spoke, can't he take a Never been so alone in a crowded room. I missed the bus, there's another one coming soon.
Here.
The mic is open but the doors are closed. I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze.
Just isolate this vocal out again.
Shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm
check our
getting
input and
old.
output are similar, so we make sure we're not deceiving our ears with a much higher level.
Coke, but I'm broke, the man spoke, can't he take a Never been so alone in a crowded room.
Off.
I missed the bus, there's another one coming soon. The mic is open but the
And
doors
on.
are closed.
So we've dialed in a little bit of the high pass filter just to get rid of any of that low end rumble that we don't need from our vocal, and to give more space to the low end, the stuff that's going on down there. I gave a little bit of a boost to the low end at 220 as well, just to give a little bit more body to the vocal. And the great thing about working with like a mid sweep, or like on these plugins, is it's very effective as well on things like electric guitar. You can literally go through these pre-notched parts on the areas on the frequency spectrum and see what's working to your ears, what's sounding nice to the recording. Just bring a bit more of that out.
I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze. Those shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm getting old. See people humming as they're looking through the rum and coke. But I'm broke, the man spoke, can't he take a Never been so alone in a crowded room. I missed the bus, there's another one coming soon.
By the time we've actually completed the rest of our mix, we've ended up with something like this.
The mic is open but the doors are closed. I'm looking back at the boy, staring down at his toes are froze. Those shows left me so cold. Keep the music coming like the act, I'm getting old. See people
So those simple moves right at the start of a mix, easy moves, musical moves with a channel strip, can really help to build that solid foundation as you work through the mix process. Now, I mentioned a moment ago whilst working on those vocals how I really like using channel strips on electric guitars. They really force you to use your ears, and in a world where you've got limitless options, having a mid-range frequency knob with 6 fixed frequencies really helps for you to make a decision, and again to train your ears and listen out for what do you like about this sound. Do you want a bit more of that sound? Does having more of that sound help whatever you're working with interact with the rest of your mix? Does it elevate the mix? That's what we're listening out for. So let's just take a listen. We're going to listen to our verse guitar, but mix it within the whole of the mix. And I'm going to do 2 things. I've just dialed in some saturation, and I've actually dialed in some mid-range as well. And once again, a really easy way to do this is just to bring in a boost and then work through the frequency bands to see what sounds good to you. So let's do that right now. So just isolating out the guitar, we can hear the difference we've made. So we've got a bit of a boost at 3.2 and some of that saturation just to add a bit of colour, but also to help to glue those 2 guitars on this bus together. So without and with. But it's really telling once you listen within the mix. Out. Everything just feels a bit more dull without it. Back in. So there you go, just 2 simple mix choices with a NOIZ style channel strip to get your guitars on the right road early on in the mix. I hope you enjoyed that video today. My name's Jonny Goode, I'm from Real Home Studio. Whatever you do today, make sure you have a great one. I'll see you next time around.